as I was preparing this talk, I found myself thinking, what could I possibly tell you that you haven't heard before about mindset? What can I tell a room full of personal development people that would be fun and new and exciting and mind-blowing about mindset, even mindset about speaking? If I had let that control my thoughts, if I had let that negative mindset control my thoughts, I would be here right now coming to you from a place of worry and stress, and I would be all up in my head, and I would not be able to be present with you. I wouldn't be able to be in the moment with you right now and connecting with you if this was all in my head. So what is mindset? And I would love to have somebody share what mindset means to you. Rico, how about you? Tell us what mindset is.
Well, our minds is what's really controlling what's going on in our body, right? So our mindset is just what we're focusing on, right, at the time. And quite often it's not very positive.
Right. So mindset is literally all the thoughts and attitudes and beliefs and ideas with which you approach a situation. It's the way you perceive a situation. It's not necessarily the reality of the situation, but it's how you perceive the situation. So as Rico said, a lot of times our mindset can be negative about certain things like public speaking. A lot of people have negative ideas about public speaking, and when they let that take over their mind, it interferes with their effectiveness as a speaker. It interferes with their ability to connect and engage with the audience. So we're going to talk a little bit today about some of the powerful approaches, mindset approaches of successful speakers, and we're going to talk about how you can change your mindset if you so choose. So I have three mindset secrets for you today. Epictetus was a Greek philosopher, and this is one of the quotes he's known for. Men, or we can just say people, are disturbed not by things, but by the principles and notions which they form concerning things. So what does that mean to you? What does this quote mean to you? And we have a mic for anybody who wants to jump in. Scout. Oh.
Well, it means mind gets in the way, and apparently that was known a very long time ago.
It was known a very long time ago. Interesting, right? So many of us are talking about mindset now, and here it is from Epictetus, a Greek philosopher. You want to say something as well? What this means to you?
Your story about how things are, how they should be.
Right, and for the recording.
So I would say that this is talking about your story about how things are compared to how they should be.
Yeah, it's a story we tell ourselves, right? So the reality may be one way. We may or may not have control over the reality, but we have control over how we perceive the reality. And now I'm going to quote myself. If your mind is powerful enough to create fear from nothing, and I'm saying fear as speakers, sometimes we have fear, we have anxiety, we have these negative mindset issues. Our minds create that a lot of the time from literally nothing. If that's the case, our mind is also powerful enough to reframe our thoughts and go in a positive direction. So as an example, I told you how I had these thoughts that, how could I possibly tell you anything new about mindset? You're all personal development people. You all have an interest in personal development. So here's how I reframed it. You may have heard some of these things before. You may have heard some things about mindset before, but you haven't heard them from me. I may have a completely different approach that you haven't heard before. I have a different style, a different personality, a different voice, right? And even if you are doing some of these things, are you doing them as well as you could be? So we all have the ability to reframe our thoughts and the way we perceive a situation. So let's talk about what these three secrets are that I'm going to share with you today. The first one, successful speakers bounce back when they make a mistake. How many of you, just raise your hand if you ever felt like maybe you were boring the audience a little bit? Anybody? Anybody ever experienced that? Raise your hand if you ever messed up during a presentation. Right. Raise your hand if something has ever gone horribly wrong in a presentation. Anybody? If you've been speaking long enough, you've had something go horribly wrong. So just in March, I was running my 3-day speaking retreat, and I was already sick when I got there, and I already had a sore throat. And on day 2, I woke up, no voice, zero, zilch voice. At the time, it seemed pretty horrible. And I had a lot of help from my team. I survived it, I overcame it. And afterwards, I was able to look at it and say, oh man, if I survived this, I can survive anything. And I took that and I put it in my pocket. What Scout calls I did it. That was an I did it moment. And so I have action steps for you with each of these 3 secrets. And the first one I want to share with you is cultivate resilience. And one way we do that is by putting these things in our back pocket for later when we need them. So on the screen here, you'll see Tyson Gay running the anchor leg of the men's 4x100 relay in the 2008 Olympics. You can also probably see that the connection was that the handoff was not made. And our men's 4x100 relay team did not make it past the first heat. And furthermore, Tyson Gay himself had been injured during the Olympic trials and didn't even make it to all the races he wanted to run in the Olympics and didn't make it into the finals of a single race. Afterwards, he said that he was disappointed, of course, and yet he was going to suck it up and cheer on the rest of his teammates. Because athletes and performers and speakers know that we have to be philosophical when things don't go our way. So first, remember your courage. That's the I did it that I'm going to steal from Scout, who Scout stole from somebody else. Remember what you've survived. Keep it in your back pocket because you're going to mess up again. You're going to have another speaking engagement where something goes wrong, I guarantee it. And you're going to want to pull out those little moments of survival. The next thing is to actually make a plan. Be conscious. If you're a person who's afraid that you're going to mess up, you're going to lose your place, you're going to get tongue-tied, make a list of all the what ifs. What if this happens? What if that happens? And then solve it. What happens if I lose my place? Oh, I'll look at my notes. Nobody's going to care, right? Whatever it is, you solve the problem for yourself so that when these things happen to you, for real, you have already thought it through and you're prepared for it. Second thing that successful speakers do, they say get to instead of have to. Have any of you ever said, oh, I have to give a presentation this week? Anybody? Especially, so a lot of you are speaking for yourself, you're promoting your own business, your own company. For a lot of people who might be watching this later, they have to speak for their job, or their boss says, I need you to give a report on Friday, right? And so there are a lot of reasons why somebody might think, oh, I have to give a presentation. Here's a different way to think about it. Focus on the benefits and possibilities. Every time you get in front of an audience, you have opportunities. There are benefits to being in front of the audience. So what are they? Would anybody like to share some benefits, some opportunities that you get every time you get in front of an audience? Put your hand up and you'll get the mic.
You learn something new information.
You learn something new. When you get in front of an audience, it's always different. Every audience is different. Anybody else, a benefit or a possibility up here that you get from being in front of an audience?
You get to touch people's lives sometimes.
You get to touch people's lives. Always. Here's a list of mine. I get to learn about myself as a person. Not always good things about myself, but I get to learn who I am as a person every time I do this. I get to express my ideas to new audiences all the time, small audiences, large audiences. A lot of people never get the opportunity to express their ideas in a wide format, right? And then I get to help people take action on the ideas that I have expressed, touching people's lives. It's fantastic. I get to learn and grow from my mistakes. Yes, I make mistakes because I am human. But every time I mess up, I look at it, I analyze it, I think about what I can do better next time, and that makes me a better speaker as I go along. And then I get to work on my skills. Every time I get in front of an audience is a practice opportunity. And I get to learn audience dynamics. I get to learn what makes my audiences tick and how to engage and connect with them better. We all have different things that we would put on this list, but I encourage you to think about what are the opportunities that you receive from speaking, and say, I get to do this. Not everybody gets to do this. You get to do this and learn all of these things. The last thing, successful speakers let go of the need for perfection. Anybody in the room perfect? I know, it's a dumb question. Logically, we know it's not possible to be perfect, and yet we still want to be. And unfortunately, we have this idea that we can somehow hide our flaws and hide the fact that we're human from our audiences. But we are humans speaking to humans, and that is the bottom line. So the last action step has a couple of ways you can do this. Focus on your strengths. So I personally like the Clifton Strengths Assessment. I do not get anything for recommending this. I have no affiliation, except that I use Clifton Strengths with myself and with my speaking clients, because I want to encourage my clients to focus on what they do well, and to stop dwelling on what they're not great at and really focus on what their inherent talents are. Now, sometimes you're not good at something that's not important. Like for me, I am terrible at making pancakes. Can't do it. I know what I'm supposed to do, but I can't make a good pancake for the life of me. So, I'll have my husband make pancakes, or I'll get them at a restaurant. It's not important. There are things that are important to me to work on. So it's okay. I'm not saying totally throw away all the things you're not good at, but focusing on your strengths really allows you to own what you are inherently good at. You don't have to take the Strengths Finder assessment. You can also ask people what they see in you. Ask your friends, ask your colleagues, find people that you trust and will be honest with you, and have them tell you what they see in you, what they think your strengths are, and what everybody knows about you. This is a fascinating exercise, again, for really helping you own what you're good at. I will tell you that when I did this exercise, I was told by people who know me that I should not ever have a job that involves sitting still, crunching numbers, or being quiet. Because my friends, they know me pretty well. Now, the trick to this is noticing when your mindset gets stuck, right? Because you can't change your mindset if you're not aware of it. So the last piece of this is to have an awareness, to have a clarity, and catch yourself when you are saying things to yourself like, I'm not good at this, or I'm going to bore people, or I'm not funny, the kinds of things a lot of people say when they're going to speak. So an example is, for me, and I mentioned reframing before, how you might turn that around. An example for me is, I'm still hanging on to the same 20 pounds I've been trying to lose for a couple of years. Can anybody relate to that? Anybody? Yeah. Well, I could very easily say, I am never going to lose this 20 pounds. Never going to lose it. It's not going to happen. I can't do it. Or I can catch myself when I'm saying that to myself, telling myself this story. I can catch myself and I can reframe it. For me, a realistic reframe would be something like, that's a really big number. It sounds really overwhelming. If I really try to think about losing 20 pounds, there's no wonder I'm not making progress. But maybe, what if I were able to lose 1 pound a month? What if it took 20 months for me to lose 20 pounds? I would be totally okay with that. I'm in no rush, and a pound a month seems doable. There is a reframe for me that changes the story that I'm telling myself. We all have the capacity to cultivate resilience. We all are able to learn about our strengths. We're all able to change our thoughts and change our perceptions of reality. This is Shakespeare's version of Epictetus Quote. There's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. We've all heard this before. And so now I'm inviting you to put this into practice. The next time you have a speaking engagement come up, remind yourself, I get to do this. I have the opportunity to do this. What possibilities arise from me doing this? And be conscious about turning your mindset around so that you really can go out into the world and make the impact and the transformation that you are here to make with your audiences. Thank you.